Good morning, boys and girls. Mr. Sherman's back again, reading the second part of chapter 10. And it goes like this. I'm going to visit Wilbur, Fern announced. They climbed the fence into the lane and walked lazily toward the pig pen. Wilbur heard them coming and got up. Avery noticed the spider web, and coming closer, he saw Charlotte. There's the rope swing. Hey, look at that big spider, he said. It's tremendous. Leave it alone, Commander Fern. You've got a frog. Isn't that enough? That's a fine spider. I'm going to capture it today, Avery. He took the cover off the candy box. Then he picked up a stick. I'm going to knock that old spider to this box, he said. Wilbur's heart almost stopped when he saw what was going on. This might be the end of Charlotte if the boy succeeded in catching her. You stop it, Avery, cried Fern. Avery put one leg over the fence of the pig pen. He was just about to raise his stick to hit Charlotte when he lost his balance. He swayed and toppled and landed on the edge of Wilbur's trough. The trough tipped up and then came down with a slap. The goose egg was right underneath. There was a dull explosion as the egg broke, and then a horrible smell. Fern screamed. Avery jumped to his feet. The air was filled with the terrible gases and smells from the rotten egg. Templeton, who had been resting in his home, scuttled away into the barn. Good night, screamed Avery. Good night. What a stink. Let's get out of here. Fern was crying. She held her nose and ran toward the house. Avery ran after her, holding his nose, and Charlotte felt greatly relieved to see him go. It had been a narrow escape. And there's Avery falling down, and the egg got crushed. The rotten egg got crushed and smelled. Later on that morning, the animals came up from the pasture: the sheep, the lambs, the gander, the goose, and the 7 goslings. There were many complaints about the awful smell, and Wilbur had to tell the story over and over again of how the Arable boy had tried to capture Charlotte, and how the smell of the broken egg drove him away just in time. It was that rotten egg that saved Charlotte's life, said Wilbur. The goose is proud of her share in the adventure. I'm delighted that the egg never hatched, she gabbled. Templeton, of course, was miserable over the loss of his beloved egg, but he couldn't resist boasting. It pays to save things, he said in a surly voice. A rat never knows when something's going to come in handy. I never throw anything away. Well, said one of the lambs, this whole business is all well and good for Charlotte, but what about the rest of us? The smell is unbearable. Who wants to live in a barn that is perfumed with rotten eggs? Don't worry, you'll get used to it, said Templeton. He sat up and pulled wisely at his long whiskers. Then he crept away to pay a visit to the dump. When Lurvy showed up at lunchtime carrying a pail of food for Wilbur, he stopped short a few paces from the pig pen. He sniffed the air and made a face. What in thunder, he said. Setting the pail down, he picked up a stick that Avery had dropped and pried the trough up. Rats, he said. Phew. I might have known a rat would make a nest under this trough. How I hate that rat. And Lurvy dragged Wilbur's trough across the yard and kicked some dirt into the rat's nest, burying a broken egg and all of Templeton's possessions. Then he picked up the pail, and Wilbur stood in his trough, drooling with hunger. Lurvy poured. The slop ran creamily down around the pig's eyes and ears. Wilbur grunted. He gulped and sucked and sucked and gulped, making swishes and swooshing noises, anxious to get everything at once. It was a delicious meal. Skim milk, wheat middlings, leftover pancakes, half a donut, the rind of a summer squash, 2 pieces of stale toast, a third of ginger snap, a fishtail, 1 orange peel, several noodles from a noodle soup, the scum off of a cup of cocoa, an ancient jelly roll, and a strip of paper from the lining of the garbage pail, and a spoonful of raspberry jelly. Wilbur ate heartily. He planned to leave half the noodle and a few drops of milk for Templeton. Then he remembered that the rat had been useful in saving Charlotte's life, that Charlotte was trying to save his life, so he left a whole noodle instead of a half. Now the broken egg was buried and the air cleared, and the barn smelled good again. The afternoon passed and evening came. Shadows lengthened. The cool and kindly breeze of evening entered through the doors and windows. Astride from her web, Charlotte sat moodily, eating a horsefly and thinking about the future, and after a while she bestirred herself. She descended to the center of the web, and there she began to cut some of the other lines. She worked slowly but steadily while the other creatures drowsed. None of the others, not even the goose, noticed that she was at work. Deep in the soft bed, Wilbur snoozed. Over in their favorite corner, the goslings whistled a night song. Charlotte tore quite a section out of her web, leaving an open space in the middle. Then she started weaving something to take the place of the threads she had removed. When Templeton got back from the dump, around midnight, the spider was still at work. And we'll find out what she did with the spider web tomorrow. All right, boys and girls, have a good day. We'll talk to you later.